Welcome to the Night Gallows. Creepy forest. Haunted mansion. Creepy apparition. Scary stalker. Welcome to the Night Gallows. Scary stories.
Chapter 1. The Silent Corridor. The clock on the wall read 2:37 a.m. The dim fluorescent lights of St. Mary's Hospital flickered intermittently, casting eerie shadows on the white walls. Dr. Elena Mitchell, a young resident, was on her night shift. The hospital, known for its state-of-the-art facilities during the day, took on a different persona at night. The usual hustle and bustle was replaced by an unsettling quiet, broken only by the occasional beep of a monitor or the distant cry of a patient. Elena had always been a rational person. She believed in science, in what could be proven. Ghost stories and urban legends were nothing more than tales to her. But there was something about the old wing of the hospital that always gave her the creeps. Rumors had it that it was haunted by the spirit of a nurse who had died under mysterious circumstances decades ago. Shaking off the thought, Elena made her way to the nurses' station to check on the night's admissions. As she skimmed through the files, a cold breeze brushed past her. She looked up, puzzled. All the windows were closed and the air conditioning was off. Dismissing it as her imagination, she continued her work. Suddenly the lights went out, plunging the corridor into darkness. The backup generator kicked in a moment later, but the lights were now even dimmer than before. Elena's heart raced. She reached for her phone, using its flashlight to navigate. As she walked, she heard a soft, melodic humming coming from the end of the corridor. It was a lullaby, but there was something off about it. Something that sent chills down her spine. Curiosity getting the better of her, Elena decided to investigate. The humming grew louder as she approached room 313, the room where the nurse was said to have died. The door was slightly ajar, and a faint light emanated from within. Taking a deep breath, Elena pushed the door open. The room was empty, save for an old rocking chair that swayed gently back and forth. On the chair lay an old nurse's cap, stained with what looked like dried blood. The humming had stopped, replaced by an oppressive silence. Elena's breath caught in her throat as she felt a presence behind her. Slowly she turned around. Standing there, in the dim light, was the translucent figure of a nurse. Her eyes were hollow, her face twisted in an eternal scream. She pointed a bony finger at Elena, her mouth moving but no sound coming out. Elena's scream echoed through the silent corridors as she ran, the ghostly figure in pursuit. The once familiar halls of St. Mary's now felt like a maze, every turn leading to another dead end. The haunting lullaby resumed, growing louder and more distorted with each passing second. As Elena rounded a corner, she collided with a security guard. Gasping for breath, she tried to explain, but her words came out incoherent. The guard, seeing her distress, decided to investigate room 313 himself. When they returned, the room was as it always had been. The rocking chair was still, the nurse's cap gone. The guard dismissed it as a prank, but Elena knew better. She had come face to face with the dark past of St. Mary's, a past that refused to stay buried. From that night on, Elena never worked the night shift again. But the memories of that night haunted her dreams, a chilling reminder that some things are better left undisturbed. Chapter 2. Whispers in the Walls. A week had passed since that harrowing night, but the events were still fresh in Elena's mind. She had requested a change in her shifts, avoiding the night hours at all costs, but the hospital was short-staffed, and she found herself working late evenings, though not quite into the dead of night. Elena tried to convince herself that what she had experienced was a result of exhaustion and stress. But every time she passed room 313, a shiver ran down her spine. She avoided the old wing as much as possible, taking longer routes to get to her destinations. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Elena was tending to a patient when she overheard two nurses whispering. "Did you hear about the night guard?" one of them said, her voice hushed. "The one who checked room 313? Yeah, he hasn't been the same since that night. They say he's been hearing voices, seeing things." Elena's heart raced. She approached the nurses, her curiosity piqued. "What happened to him?" she asked. The nurses exchanged a glance. "He's been admitted," one of them replied. "Psych ward. Keeps muttering about the lady in white and voices in the walls." Elena felt a chill. She decided to visit the guard, hoping to find some answers. As she entered the psych ward, she found him in a corner, his eyes wide and unblinking. "She's real," he whispered as Elena approached. "She's angry." Elena knelt beside him. "Who? The nurse?" The guard nodded. "She's trapped, looking for a way out. She's not alone. There are others, trapped in the walls, crying out for release." Elena felt a mixture of fear and pity. "What do they want?" she asked. The guard looked at her, his eyes filled with terror. "They want to be free, and they'll do anything to achieve it." Over the next few days, strange occurrences began to plague St. Mary S. Equipment malfunctioned, lights flickered, and patients reported seeing ghostly apparitions. The staff was on edge, whispers of the hospital's haunted past circulating once more. Determined to find answers, Elena began researching the history of St. Mary S. She discovered that the hospital was built on the grounds of an old asylum, which had burned down in the early 1900s. Many patients had perished in the fire, their cries for help going unanswered. Elena realized that the spirits of the asylum's patients were trapped within the walls of St. Mary Des, their anguish echoing through the corridors, and the nurse, the lady in white, was their leader, guiding them in their quest for freedom. With the help of a local historian and a medium, Elena devised a plan to free the trapped souls. But she knew it wouldn't be easy. The spirits were growing restless, their anger palpable. And as the clock ticked closer to midnight, Elena prepared herself for the battle ahead, hoping to bring peace to the tormented souls of St. Mary Ars. Chapter 3. The Final Hour. The clock struck 11 p.m. Elena, accompanied by the historian, Mr. Grayson, and the medium, Madame Lila, stood outside room 313. The air was thick with tension, the weight of the past pressing down on them. Madame Lila began setting up a circle of salt and candles, chanting softly. "The spirits are restless," she murmured, her eyes distant. "But they're also desperate for release." Elena took a deep breath. "What do we need to do?" "We need to perform a ritual," Madame Lila replied. "It will open a portal, allowing the spirits to move on. But it's risky. If anything goes wrong, we could be trapped with them." Mr. Grayson handed Elena a worn-out diary. "This belonged to the head doctor of the asylum," he explained. "It contains the names of all the patients who perished in the fire. We need to call them out, acknowledge them, and give them the closure they never received." The trio formed a circle, joining hands. Madame Lila began the ritual, her voice echoing through the silent corridors. As she chanted, the temperature in the room dropped, and a dense fog enveloped them. One by one, Elena began reading out the names from the diary. With each name, a faint apparition appeared, their faces etched with pain and sorrow. The lady in white, the ghostly nurse, stood at the forefront, her eyes locked onto Elena's. As the last name was read, the room was filled with spirits, their cries of anguish filling the air. Madame Lila's voice grew louder, the energy in the room intensifying. The walls began to shake, and the lights flickered wildly. Suddenly, a blinding light emanated from the center of the circle, growing larger and brighter. The spirits, drawn to the light, began moving towards it, their forms disintegrating as they crossed the threshold. The lady in white approached Elena, her expression softening. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. With a final nod, she stepped into the light, disappearing into the ether. The room grew silent, the oppressive atmosphere lifting. The portal closed, leaving the trio in darkness. As the candles flickered back to life, Elena, Mr. Grayson, and Madame Lila exchanged relieved glances. The spirits of St. Mary's had finally found peace. In the days that followed, the hospital returned to normal. The strange occurrences ceased, and the staff no longer felt the eerie presence that had once haunted the corridors. Room 313 was sealed off, a memorial plaque placed outside in honor of the lost souls. Elena, forever changed by the experience, decided to dedicate her life to researching the paranormal, hoping to help other trapped spirits find their way home. And as the years passed, the legend of St. Mary's faded into obscurity, becoming nothing more than a whispered tale. But for those who had witnessed the events of that fateful night, the memories remained, a testament to the thin veil that separates the living from the dead.
If you enjoyed these stories, please give a like and subscribe for more haunting stories. And remember, you never know what might be standing behind you watching your every move.